As per UNESCO, Suvarnadurg, 17 degrees 48 minutes 57.50 seconds north, 73 degrees 5 minutes 3.93 seconds east. Presumably built by the rulers of Bijapur in the 16th century CE, Suvarnadurg is another of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's maritime forts which later served as a naval station of the Angras. This is an important coastal island fortification constructed near the port of Harnai with three secondary promontory fort networks, namely, Gova Fort, Fatehgarh, and Kanakadurga. The fort is constructed on a low irregular island, about a quarter of a mile from the shore, surrounded by a very high wall and one of the most striking of the Ratnagiri coast forts. It is located near Harnai port, which is an ancient port, and hence building a fort at that location to serve the purpose of trade with military satisfaction. It is so well planned with three subsidiary forts on land supporting the island fort, making clear the importance of the main fort. Within the fort are several reservoirs and a small step well with water enough for a large garrison. The fort is under the jurisdiction of the Archaeological Survey of India, Central Government, India Ved Notification Number 4343, date 17 August 1909, General Department Notification Number 2907, dated 21 June 1910. Kanhoji Angry 1667–1729, popularly known as Shivaji of the Sea, was the admiral of the Maratha Navy. In 1696, Kanhoji's naval fleet was stationed in Suvarnadurg. However, the fort was formally handed over to Kanhoji in 1713 by Shahu Raja. Kanhoji Angry, who was also known as Angriya, was appointed in 1698 as admiral of the Maratha naval fleet by the Peshwas. He had complete control over the west coast, from Bombay to Vengola, except for the fort of Janjira, which remained with the Siddhis, for 200 years. Angry was considered to be a mercenary who attacked defenseless towns and also traders. He even attacked the East Indian Company's ship in 1702 and refused to release the 6 British captives. He severed his relations with the Peshwas in 1704 and was called the rebel independent of the Raja Shivaji. In spite of the warning by the British that he should not attack or capture British ships, he captured their ships in 1707. He had a free run of the west coast from Surat to Dapoli and captured all private vessels. When Shivaji's grandson was imprisoned, Kanhoji got his opportunity to stake his claim for independence. In 1713, he had captured Peshwa's General Bairu, which forced the Peshwa General Balaji Rao, commander-in-chief of the Maratha forces, to come to an agreement with him. For maintaining fealty with the Sataras, Shivaji's family stronghold, he was granted 26 forts and its dependent villages, which included Suvarnadurg. In subsequent years, these forts became strongholds for piracy. According to both Indian historians of Anglo-Maratha wars such as Anil Athale and now revisionist Western historians such as John Kay and Simon Layton. The pejorative pirate was used in British records, but the correspondence between the English and Maratha navy suggests more a communication between the Maratha state and a trading company without permits, the English East India Company. Leighton wrote in the Mohuls Admiral, Angrian, Piracy, and the Rise of British Bombay. It is now generally accepted by historians that Kanhoji Angria, at least, was not a pirate in any sense of the word. Rather, he is more properly thought of as the Admiral of the Marathas, an Indian kingdom, who for many years confronted European attempts to claim navigational rights over coastal shipping lanes. With his new ordered control, Kanhoji held complete control over a coastline stretching over a coast length of 390 kilometers and 64 kilometers width, extending from Bombay to Vengala to the south. He later entered into an agreement with the British, which went against him as the British flouted all terms with him. Humiliated by this treatment by the British, he decided to attack them. He entered into an alliance with the Raja of Satara, equipped his vessels and manned them by the best crew consisting of Dutchmen. He also employed a Jamaican pirate as his chief gunner. Many European pirate forces had also joined his army after the Treaty of Utrecht of 1713–14, comprising a series of individual peace treaties among several European states including England, France and Spain, among others. With this force, he attacked the merchant ships of the East India Company. Kanhoji relentlessly carried on his fight against the British and in 1721 joined hands with the Portuguese. When 33 British soldiers were killed, 21 wounded and many ammunition and field guns were seized by the Marathas. In 1722, when Kanhoji was to attack the English factory at Karwar, in spite of the British sending their ships, Victoria, and the Revenge, to attack Kanhoji's forces, he was not cowed down. Even though his Dutch commander was killed and his 16 ships were captured. However, he died on the 4th of June 1729, an unvanquished hero for 31 years against all foreign attacks. He had 2 legitimate and 2 illegitimate sons, and Sambhaji, his legitimate son, was given control of Suvarnadurg. Following the death of one of the brothers in 1734, there were intense fights and acts of piracy continued. In spite of attacks by the British in 1732, Sambhaji was back in Suvarnadurg unharmed. However, by 1749, Tulaji, the stepbrother of Sambhaji, had become very powerful and his ships sailed unharmed, even much bolder than what his father Kanhoji had achieved. This situation forced the Peshwas to join hands with the British to suppress Tulaji. In 1755, they jointly attacked Tulaji's stronghold of Suvarnadurg and took control of the fort within 48 hours. Suvarnadurg was then given to the Peshwas. That was considered a humiliating surrender by the Peshwas to the British. Subsequent to Kanhoji's demise, Tulaji angry took charge of Suvarnadurg and it became the seat of his power. However, he fell foul of the Peshwas. He was considered arrogant. In the war with Tulaji, Peshwas were supported by the British. The joint siege of the fort lasted from the 25th of March to the 2nd of April 1755. On the 12th of April 1755, Commodore James captured the fort and formally handed it over to the Peshwas. However, this support proved detrimental to the Peshwas, as the British extracted, as a reward, control over the Bangkok fort but only allowed the Peshwas to have control over the Suvarnadurg. In 1802, Bajirao Peshwa, under attack by the Holkars, was trying to take refuge in this fort but had to flee to Vasai as he was chased to the fort by the Holkars. In 1818, Captain William of the British Army attacked the fort and took full control of it on the 4th of December 1818. Soon thereafter the other forts also came under British control. The fort was thus under the control of the Peshwas till 1818. The fort has witnessed a scene of triumph and tragedy, of the display of heroic courage and abject cowardice. The Angrias are also credited with not only strengthening the fort but also establishing the shipbuilding yard at Suvarnadurg and creating a large fleet of warships to secure the west coast, the Konkan coast, from attack from the British, French, Dutch and Portuguese East India companies. It is also inferred that the small forts, Gova, Kanakadurga, Bangkok Fort, Fatehgarh Fort and Gova Fort, were primarily built by Kanhoji Angri to defend Suvarnadurg from any enemy attack from the land route.